Hey guys, back with another impressions video. This is going to be a shorter one. This game's it's a pretty short game. I got through it pretty quick, and I really wanted to talk about this game because it's a game that I gotta recommend everyone try to play. The only way I could see someone not enjoying this game, honestly, is if they don't like platformers. The game Shovel Knight. Now this was a Kickstarter game done by a lot of like a team of like ex Way Forward guys. And I really wish I backed this game. I don't know why I didn't. Like, I had always heard about it, but essentially what it is an old school NES 8-bit platformer, like a game done in the style of those old games. A lot of the influences, for instance, from what I understand, and you can tell when you play the game. The Castlevania games were a big influence on this game. I'd say the main two though are the Mega Man games and Zelda 2, actually, for the NES. Other games, Dark Souls actually borrows a bit from Dark Souls. DuckTales is another one. Basically a lot of NES games. But at the same time, this feels very fresh and unique. It's got a lot of cool ideas and a lot of modern design sensibilities, which is why I enjoyed this game so much. It brought me a lot of nostalgic memories with the music and the game's look, but at the same time, there's a lot of features here from this era of video games that are fantastic. I'll talk a bit more about that later in the gameplay part. But Shovel Knight, it's on Wii U, 3DS, and PC. The Kickstarter met all of its goals, so there's going to be like added content for free later. But it goes for, I think, $15, which is a very good deal, especially considering all this free content that we're going to be getting for this game. I gotta recommend the Wii U version. I got it on PC, the Steam version, and I had to use a 360 D-pad or controller. Actually, the 360 D-pad is so fucking terrible that I just used the analog stick. Like, that's how bad the D-pad is on the 360 controller. I'd recommend the Wii U version, actually, because the Pro controller is fantastic on that. Or the 3DS if you're really into handheld gaming. The PC version is great if that's the only thing you had, if that's the only way you can play it, but basically just try to get your hands on this game. It's fucking amazing. Honestly, my second favorite game of the year right now, with only Dark Souls beating it. I've gone through it once. I really want to start like a New Game Plus mode, the New Game Plus, and play through it again. There's a lot of content, a lot of achievements, and like added features and stuff. And then of course all this new content they're going to be adding to the game. But I guess I'll start with the story. Like a lot of NES games, it's a very simple story, but unlike a lot of NES games, I found the story here incredibly endearing. Of course, you play as the character Shovel Knight. The game kind of starts out with you and your partner Shield Knight, who's kind of a romantic interest, not really, but you're basically adventuring, gathering treasure when you find the Tower of Fate. And then I guess some amulet in this Tower of Fate kind of like I can't remember exactly what happens exactly, or it's a bit hazy because there's only like an intro cutscene, right? That's very short and to the point. But basically, Shovel Knight wakes to find that the Shield Knight is completely missing, and the tower that you ventured to has been closed off, and you don't know where she disappeared to. And eventually, an evil enchantress takes over the land, and it's despair all over the land. And eventually, the tower opens, and Shovel Knight kind of goes back into action after being like, after just giving up and being, he's just sitting around doing nothing basically for such a long time. And once this tower opens, he decides to do something about it and try to stop the enchantress and see if he can rescue Shield Knight. And the game kind of this is where like the Mega Man inspirations come in, where you have to like take down I think they're the Order of No Quarter, I think is what they're called. Like there's these 8 knights. For instance, there's Tinker Knight, Polar Knight, King Knight, I think, is one. So a definite inspiration from Mega Man there. You don't have all of them right off the bat, though. You don't take take on all 8 guys at once. They're like gated off because you've got like a Super Mario Brothers 3 style world map here where you can, you know, travel to different parts on the map. There's, I guess we're talking about the gameplay right now, but where you can take on 3 bosses, and then that will unlock a gate to bring on the next 3 bosses, and so on and so forth. And you'll unlock little bonus areas where you can like use your abilities to get extra gold. There's enemies that will roam across the map, like in Super Mario Bros. 3 with the Hammer Brothers, which I thought was a neat touch. There's some optional bosses that way as well, and there's towns, and this is where the Zelda 2 inspiration comes in. Other than the downward stab that Shovel Knight has, where you can talk to characters, you can spend your treasure or gold basically to upgrade your abilities, to get more health, to get more mana, and I really loved those parts where you'd go into town after every level and spend your hard-earned money on different upgrades. And there's a lot of really clever and funny dialogue there, a lot of interesting NPCs. There's even like a mini game you can do in one of the towns. It's so fun exploring these towns and the world map in general. But the basic gameplay is it's kind of your typical NES style platformer where you have your shovel attack. You have your downward stab where you jump and hold down, and then you kind of bounce off enemies and parts of the environment. Tons of different mechanics in the levels themselves that I don't want to give away, but pretty much all of them are fantastic and really unique and kind of keep building. Like, the game starts off fairly easy. The first few levels are definitely not too challenging, but the further you get, the tougher the game gets. And I gotta say, like, in terms of challenge, this game is perfect. It's very challenging, don't get me wrong. I died, I think it was like my total death count at the end was 72. I think I died 72 times, which is quite a bit. And the later stages are pretty brutal. The stages themselves are pretty long too. But some of the obstacles later are pretty tough to deal with. And of course, spikes and bottomless pits kill you one hit, like in the Mega Man games. This game, other than like the shovel attack and the downward stab, you can like charge up your your shovel, but that's a later ability. There's different armors you can get to. The game controls perfectly. I mean, it feels like the controls feel so great. Which it needed to be like that. Even with the analog stick, the terrible 360 analog stick, I'm surprised how much control I had over Shovel Knight. Really fantastic stuff. The game's got a great pace too. It's really quick. I love just hitting parts of the environment for treasure. That's a big component of the game too. Is searching for treasure. You can like collect musical notes through the levels that you can use to kind of unlock like a shop in the town where it's like a sound test mode where you can basically play all the songs in town. There's relics that you can get, which are kind of hidden throughout the levels, and you can buy some of the ones that you missed in the levels themselves. I mean, the levels aren't completely from point A to point B. There's like still hidden areas in these massive levels, and these relics are basically like your powers, like your Mega Man powers. And they're really fun to use. You've got like your fireball power. You've got one that actually prevents you from taking damage for like 2 seconds maybe. That one was kind of cheap. I didn't use that one too much. I felt that was a bit cheap. You could really get through a lot of tough areas pretty easily with that one. I don't want to spoil all the relics. They're really fun to use and find throughout the world. Collecting treasure is really fun. Opening treasure boxes. The boss battles are fantastic. They have very unpredictable patterns, but it's fun trying to dodge their attacks, and they're just so, like, there's so much variety to these boss battles. I will say the difficulty on the boss battles is quite a bit lower than on the levels themselves. I think the only boss that gave me some trouble was the Spectre Knight. He was pretty tough, especially for an early boss, but other than that, the bosses aren't insanely tough, but they're very fun. They're just, they've almost they almost feel like duels in a way where you kind of have to like slash them and then back off a bit or try down stabbing them. The downward stab is just so much fun to use in this game. Like, and the level design overall is just so fucking good. It's crazy how well designed these levels are. One thing, another thing is the checkpoint system. There's no lives in this game. And this is one of the things I really love about this game, and it's very modern. This checkpoint system, where each level is really long, and usually it has like 4 to 6 checkpoints. Usually the spacing is fairly long, but it's really good. Like the spacing between checkpoints is absolutely perfect. I never felt like any of the checkpoint placing was unfair. And when you die, you lose a part of your gold that you've collected throughout the level. And if you can't, this is where the Dark Souls element comes in, where if you can't make it to your gold, if you die before you reach your gold, you lose it. So there's like a risk reward system, especially when you consider the fact that you can destroy the checkpoints and you can't use them after you've destroyed them. And again, I've talked about this before in my difficulty video, dynamic difficulty, which this game has and does perfectly, where if you're feeling the game is too easy, destroy the checkpoints for extra gold. That's what destroying the checkpoints does for you. And the game gets quite a bit tougher. Or try going for some of these achievements that are in the game. I mean, there's one for like completing the game in an hour and 30 minutes, completing the game like with without like eating food or collecting gold. There's a lot of tough achievements. I like they're very tough. And then there's New Game Plus, where the enemies are a lot tougher. They do more damage. You deal less damage to them, and the food is gone from the levels. Food basically recovers health. But yeah, as far as gameplay goes, I mean, the game is just it's perfect. There's like nothing I can complain about with this difficulty. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like it's I wouldn't say it's as hard as a lot of NES games are, even like the Mega Man games, like 9 and 10, for instance, which I really loved. And I was kind of thinking, like, do I like this game better than 9 and 10, Mega Man 9 and 10? And part of me says no, but I think that's just bias. I mean, I love the Mega Man games so much, like, nothing can touch those games for me. But I think objectively speaking, Shovel Knight is a superior game to those. It's probably the best NES throwback type game I've ever played. And certainly one of the best indie games I've ever played. It's just so good, this gameplay. Visually, like I've said, a throwback to the NES, a limited color palette, but the game still looks terrific. It probably looks better overall than a lot of NES games, especially in terms of background detail and character details. But a lot of environment variety here. The environments look fantastic. The character designs are absolutely stunning and really creative. It was just fun to see what each enemy would look like. Music wise, it's all like 8-bit kind of, I guess you'd call them chip tunes. It's that NES style music, and it's excellent. What can I say? The only thing I'll say about the soundtrack, a lot of people really love the soundtrack in this game. I gotta say, after playing the game, I can't really pinpoint any songs. Like, I can't look back and think of a song that immediately got stuck in my head. The song that I liked the most was actually the campfire song, which I should mention the campfire segments. In between levels, you kind of rest at a campfire, and you can kind of like break the campfire to get treasure. And you'll have like this dream sequence where like you try to catch Shield Knight out of the sky, and it's like this. It's this really endearing kind of story segment that's told. It's like it's story told through gameplay, where it's kind of like Shovel Knight really misses the Shield Knight, and he really wants to rescue her, and I don't know, it's this really nice moment in the game that I was surprised by. In fact, I was surprised by the story in general. It's so endearing for how simple it is, and the ending is really great too. And of course, there's some sadness to this game, I thought, but at the same time, there's definitely humor as well. A lot of cool throwbacks to old NES games as well. But about the music, it's all great, but I found it kind of blended together a bit for me. Like, I couldn't tell you, I couldn't remember any of the songs, basically, now that I think about it. Like, the only song that stuck with me, I'd say, is the campfire song, like I said before. And I look back at like Mega Man 9 and 10, I can remember almost all the songs in those games. Solar Man's theme from Mega Man 10, Sheep Man's theme from Mega Man 10, Splash Woman's theme from Mega Man 9. Like, they were a lot more memorable to me. I don't know why that is. Why, even though I love the soundtrack in this game, it doesn't quite hit the same highs for me as like the songs in Mega Man 9 and 10. I think actually the composer of the original Mega Man did a couple songs on this game too. I don't know which ones those are, but yeah, overall the music is fantastic. I mean, it's a very nitpicky kind of complaint. I don't know. None of the songs really kind of stuck with me, other than that campfire one, which was fantastic. Although it's really short. That song's really really short. But yeah, I don't know what there is else to say about this game. I'm gonna put up gameplay, and it was one of those games that I would look at it and it looked fun, but it's one of those games you really have to play to get why it's so fun. And once you get once you kind of understand like the controls and I kind of get a feel for the controls, you'll understand and kind of get a bit further into the game. You'll see why it's just so much fun. It's the perfect game for me as someone that grew up playing these types of games, these NES and Super Nintendo platformers that were tough as nails. It's nice to have a game like this that harkens back to those games, but at the same time has very forgiving death system. It gets rid of those annoying live systems that so many of those NES games had. I mean, as much as I love the Mega Man games, I mean, they're not very forgiving in that regard, although more so than a lot of NES games. I mean, comparing this to, say, Zelda 2, like, Zelda 2 is like a million times more brutal than this game. But like I said, at the same time, this game's very challenging. Don't get me wrong, it's a tough game. Like, my hands were sweating like crazy towards in some of the later levels. But yeah, this is a highly recommended game. If you're a fan of platformers in any way, definitely play this. Even if you are turned off by a lot of like NES platformers for their difficulty, definitely give this a shot because of its awesome checkpointing system. But yeah, I've talked about this game actually far longer than I was expecting to. It's just, this game just blew me away. Like, I fucking love this game. Like, it's one of the best games of the year by far. But yeah, anyways, that will do it, guys. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.